It's a wonderful privilege to speak to such a distinguished group of successful people. Bharat Ruparel and Bharat Shah and other officers of AICC asked me to speak for 21 minutes tonight on the theme for tonight, success is a journey and not a destination. Now I should clarify something right up front. The reason why they asked me to speak is not because I know anything more about success than many of you successful people sitting here and in the audience. The reason why I think they asked me to talk tonight is they heard through grapevine, probably my wife told them, that I talk too much. I look around in this room and I see men and women of tremendous accomplishment. People whose success I have admired and envied. And then of course, the man we are honoring tonight, brilliant Dr. Dinesh Patel. All of you can teach me a thing or two about success. Now for me to keep anything down to 21 minutes is a challenge.
Take 10 more.
If you ask me the time of the day, I speak for 22 minutes. If you ask me name of my wife, I speak for 22 minutes. Reminds me of a speaker, reminds me of a story my uncle used to say. At a political rally, a speaker went on and on and on. And people from the audience were leaving one after another. Finally, there was only one person left in the audience. And so as the speaker concludes his speech and turns to this lone, one final person in the audience, the speaker says, "You must have found my speech very interesting and stimulating." The guy says, "Not really, I'm the next speaker." So today I have asked my lovely wife Meena to run a stopwatch on me, and at precisely 20 minutes in the speech, she's going to wave a red flag at me. What is success? Well, it is not just money. Mike Tyson has money. We don't consider him successful. Young Kennedys have money. Not many of us would want to switch places with them. The New Jersey Lotto creates new millionaires almost every other week. And although we all would love to be fortunate to win $1 million, we don't consider those new millionaires successful. Lucky? Yes. Successful? No. In his book, Over the Top, the renowned motivational speaker Zig Ziglar defines success as to have happiness, health, prosperity, and most importantly, a hope in your heart that tomorrow will be better than today. Isn't that profound? Success simply means you have hope in your heart that tomorrow will be better than today. Now, if you are in that state of mind right now, then no matter what you do for a living, you are very successful. John Maxwell has said that hope in the future creates power in the present. Success, therefore, is about hope. Success is about attitude. Let me tell you a story about a little town in Kansas many, many years ago. The town depended on its farming income, and the farmers needed rain. One year, there was no rain whatsoever. The farmers were worried. Everybody in town was worried. So the priest at the local church called all the townsmen and said, "Let's have a prayer at the town square Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, where I'm going to lead you in the prayer so that the Lord will make it rain on this little town in Kansas." Come Sunday, all the townsmen gathered at the town square. And the priest spotted a little boy sitting in the front row. And the boy was clutching a copy of Bible in one hand, and in the other hand, he had an umbrella. So the priest asked this little boy, "Why are you carrying an umbrella?" So the little boy says, Father, I know the Lord is going to listen to my prayer, and He's going to make it rain right away. And Father, I'm wearing a brand new shirt. I don't want my shirt to get wet. Now, isn't that a true believer? I don't know whether it rained on that day in Kansas or not, but I have no doubt that that little kid must have grown up to be a super successful person. Success is having hope in your heart that tomorrow is going to be better than today. Success is about having Success is about having a positive perspective. Now, talk about positive attitude. Here is a story about a woman with unbelievable positive attitude. Mrs. Brown was living in a retirement community. She was a widow, but she was a pleasant person, full of life. One day she spots a new man at this community. Older man, but handsome, distinguished, and unattached. So Mrs. Brown, that evening, rather than waiting for anybody to introduce that gentleman to her, picked up her tray of food, found the table where this gentleman was sitting, walked right there, introduced herself, sat across and said, "Do you know you look exactly like my third husband?" Says, "You know, the handsome face, the deep blue eyes, the silky silver hair, your resemblance to my third husband is uncanny." So guy says, "Thank you. How many times have you been married, lady?" She said, "Twice." Needless to say, they got married in 2 months. If there is hope in the future, there is power in the present. Now, do you know, being immigrants, we already have an upper hand. Did you know that a legal immigrant is 4 times more likely to become a millionaire in his lifetime than other people who are born here? Amazing fact, isn't it? You see, a native-born person sees all that is wrong with America, and an immigrant sees all that is right with America. We left our friends, our family, our culture, our music, all behind us. We came to this new country where food was a problem, language was a problem, getting a good job was a problem. And we did whatever it took. I have worked as a security guard, as a waiter, as a chauffeur, as a factory worker. And while we were doing those odd jobs, and while we did not have money to buy a can of Pepsi, we had a knowledge in our heart that tomorrow will be better than today. See, immigrants have hope in their heart, and therefore they look at obstacles as opportunities. It's all a matter of your perspective. Haven't you heard about 2 Italian shoes manufacturing companies? And both of them sent their marketing experts to a remote African island to see if they could develop new market for shoes. Once these 2 executives from 2 different companies arrived in this island of primitive people, they were stunned. So the first one sends a telegram to his headquarters and says, "No opportunity here, not a single potential customer, the islanders don't wear shoes." The second one sends a telegram to his company, "Unlimited opportunities here. Every citizen is a potential customer. The islanders don't wear shoes." You see, the same set of circumstances, completely different perspective. One has hope in his heart, the other doesn't. The experience of an immigrant in the United States is an experience of struggle, setbacks, humiliations, but in the end, the experience that makes us all better human beings. My own life has been a journey of constant corrections. 25 years ago, I started working for a company called SS White, a company that manufactures flexible shaft. I started in second shift as a quality control inspector, and I was making $2.45 an hour. 15 years later, I was fortunate enough to be able to buy the company. But I look back at my years, and I can name countless mistakes I have made. Today, I want to share some of my mistakes with you. One of my major mistakes was to try to get the best deal on whatever I was after. See, we all come to this country with a single mission: to improve the quality of our life. Leaving India was a heartbreaking sacrifice for many of us. But because of that heartbreaking sacrifice, it creates tremendous pressure on us that anything we do, we have to do it right. So early on, as I lived in a rooming house, I started learning the virtues of being frugal. Buy things only when they are on sale. Do enough research so that you don't make a mistake. Every purchasing decision became a test of my intelligence. Later, when money was not a problem anymore, I still could not shake off that habit. So let us say I was considering buying a toaster, General Electric toaster TC101 that sold for $49.95. But now before I buy that, shouldn't I also check if Sunbeam and Hamilton Beach and Sears have comparable models? Should I not go to the library and look at consumers' reports? But wait, should I not subscribe to consumers' reports for $19 and get 12 issues at home, or should I continue making my trips to the library? Boy, buying a toaster was so complicated. So then finally I would decide of getting a GE toaster, and I would point with a lot of pride to my wife. I would say, you know, GE toaster has 9 settings for the darkness of the toast. Sunbeam only has 7. Plus, I would tell her, I said, listen, although Kmart has it on sale for $39.95, Price Club at the regular price sells it for $35.95. Now please understand, it wasn't $5. The real issue in my mind was, did I think I was smart enough? I would go to the Price Club, I buy the toaster. A month later, I'm looking at Sunday Star Ledger, and Caldor has it on sale for $19.95. That's it. My self-worth is destroyed. How come I can't make right decisions, I would say. Now you laugh and you may think I'm exaggerating. But every decision I made in those days had become a test of my ability and test of my intelligence. For many years, I was a prisoner of this mentality. Then at work, I met a marketing consultant. His name was Jim Carlton. And then later, we became friends. So he said to me, he said, Rahul, what makes people upset tells a lot about those people. Well, I said, what do you mean, Jim? He said, let's say you go to Kmart and say, I would like to buy that answering machine that's on sale. And the clerk says, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. The sale was over yesterday. And you say, God damn. And you turn to your wife and you say, you know what, this always happens to me. And you get very upset. So Jim said, if that happens, Rahul, then that means that you do not have bigger things in life to be upset about. Jim had said something very profound. If I get upset about little things, how would I ever get to do big things? I gradually realized that when I make purchasing decisions, it is not a test of my intelligence. When I negotiate a deal with a bank, with a union, with a customer, that it does not have to be the very best deal possible. It just has to be a deal that I can live with. I do not have to be better than everybody else. I just have to be slightly better than the person I'm competing against. Now, have you heard of this story? There was a Russian and an American, and they were visiting state of Gujarat. And they were trying to establish new joint ventures. And they were both near the town of Junagadh. And one day they were walking on the outskirts of Junagadh, talking and chatting. They both spoke English. And they were so engrossed in their talking, and they took one wrong turn, and oh my God, all of a sudden they find themselves in the middle of jungle of Gir. And then they hear a roar of a lion. And they look up, and 500 feet, they see this huge lion looking at these people with hungry, vicious eyes. So the Russian and American both froze with deathly fear. But then the American opened his briefcase, got his running shoes out, and he started taking his old shoes out and started tying the laces on the running shoes. So the Russian looks at him and starts laughing. He says, hey, lion can run at 60 miles per hour. He says, you with your fancy running shoes are not going to outrun the lion. So the American says, I don't have to outrun the lion, I just have to outrun you. But stories like this were slowly making impression on me. In 1987, the company where I was working was put up for sale. Initially, it did not even occur to me that I could make a bid for it. But then an important thing happened to me. A close friend of mine, Bipin Bajania, comes to my house and he says, hey, why don't you buy the company? Me? Buy the company? Oh, what a heavy concept. But looking back, the most important thing, the most important step for me was to say it out loud. Yes, I want to buy the company. Only a year ago, in 1986, I had listened to a motivational tape. And the speaker said, in life, you should not wait to do something until you are ready. You should decide to do it and then start becoming ready for it. This, of course, went against everything they had taught me in engineering. My original training was to do something only if I was qualified to do it. So the speaker on the tape talked about scotoma. He says scotoma is a scientific term for this brain filter that we all have. You see, there are all sorts of sights and sounds in the world, and all of them are coming at us, and if our brain analyzed all of them, we would go nuts. So this scotoma filter sits there, it looks at the information and says, if it is meaningful, I will let it go to the analytical part of the brain. If it is not, let's filter it out. So let me give you an example. You walk to a party, a very noisy party, there's music playing very loud, and everybody is talking, and you walk in, and there are two people talking right next to you, and they're saying something, you can't hear a word of it, and from the other end of the party, other end of the room, somebody says, hey Rahul, you hear that? Why? Because your scotoma said, this information is meaningful, let's let it go up. I'll give you another example. Let's say a family lives next to railroad tracks, and in the middle of the night, a freight train can pass by, and the mother will be fast asleep. But if her 6-month-old baby cries in the next room, she wakes up, because the scotoma knows what information is useful and meaningful, what information is not. You want to do something, first decide to do it. At least now, your scotoma will allow useful information to get to your brain. Now, haven't you had the same experience? You decide to buy a Mercedes. Suddenly, everywhere you see Mercedes. On Route 1, on Turnpike, on Garden State Parkway. Where did they all come from? Oh my God, well, they were all out there. They were all out there. Your scotoma knew that that information wasn't meaningful. Now you want to buy a Mercedes, everywhere you see Mercedes. So in 1987, for the first time in my life, I had the courage of saying, let's buy the company, without knowing where the money would come from. But after saying it loud, I allowed new information to reach my brain. At work, I talked to my 3 friends, Tom, Bernie, and Mike. And I said to them, hey, let's buy this company. So Mike says, first he laughed. Then he says, why would anybody sell this company to us? I said, Mike, why do beautiful women marry ugly men? I said, I don't know why, but I know they do. And I am tired of doing things cautiously. Damn it, I don't want to be cautious anymore. Let's buy the company. So next I go to Yellow Pages to find a banker. And I start calling one bank after another. I needed $6 million. So Mike comes to me, he again starts laughing. He said, hey, you're not going to find $6 million from Yellow Pages. So I said, Mike, do you know any banker personally? He says, no. Back to Yellow Pages. It still took me more than 9 months. to convince a bank to give us $6 million. In the beginning, I was trying to impress the bankers with my knowledge and my education, and they were totally unimpressed. It took me a while to figure out that they were more interested in finding out, A, whether this company can make profit, and B, whether I believed that this company can make profit. They wanted to know whether I was excited about this or whether I was scared. Fortunately, I had attended a seminar only 2 years ago in 1986 and was deeply affected by what the speaker had said. The speaker at the seminar said, "Hey guys, let's play a game. I'm going to toss a coin. You call it head or tail. If you call it correctly, I give you $1 million. If you call it incorrectly, you pay me $100,000. Fair enough?" He says, "But listen, to keep things legal, you have to sign this contract before we play the game. That way you can't change your mind afterwards. How many of you want to play?" Well, nobody wanted to play. He says, all right, well, let's change something. I toss a coin. You call it head or tail. If you call it correctly, I pay you $10. If you call it incorrectly, you pay me $1. How many of you want to play? We all wanted to play. We all wanted to play. He said, now, isn't that strange? He says, the odds of winning are still exactly the same, 10 to 1. He says, but the difference is, the first time, you were all concentrating on losing $100,000 rather than winning $1 million. And he says, when I gave you the second set, then only you started concentrating on winning. He said the difference between us and successful business people is that for the same set of circumstances, we careful people try to figure out how much money we would lose, and those successful business people, for the same situation, try to figure out how much money they will make. Different story, same message. Successful people have hope in their heart, and if there is hope in the future, there is power in the present. Needless to say, in the end, the bank came through, and I got an opportunity of lifetime. Now, speaking of lifetime, I want to share this very personal story, and its connection to tonight's theme, success is a journey, might not be obvious in first few minutes of the story. But I cannot think of a more appropriate story to bring my speech to a conclusion. Let's call it Wahida Rahman's story. As I was growing up in the 60s, I was tremendously fond of Hindi movies. In my teen years, I saw many movies. My personality, my ambition, my dreams, my motivations, all were based on what I learned from movies. In those days, Sadhana, Asha Parekh, Nutan, Mala Sinha, all were big stars. But of course, as it is well known in my family and friend circle, I found Wahida Rahman to be best of all. I was 17. A tree wrapped in a sari looked exciting. Here was a beautiful actress. She looked like queen of the universe. So I told all my friends, I said, how beautiful Wahida Rahman is. And later I would jokingly say, if only I can somehow spend one evening with Wahida Rahman. Now this was a running joke in my family. When I purchased the company, my sister who lives in Piscataway called me up and she said, "Hey Rahul, I hear that Wahida Rahman now lives in Long Island and she's retired from acting." She says, "Why don't you hire her as your secretary?" I said, "I'm willing to hire her as a vice president. She can become my boss." Now you may wonder how come I can say all these things while my wife is sitting there. Well, for two reasons. One is she's a good sport and was actually cheering for me. She says, "I hope you get to see her." But the second reason, of course, is that she herself had a huge crush on Shashi Kapoor. In the 70s, when Shashi Kapoor probably was one of the most handsome men alive, we had gone to New York to his concert, and then at the end of the program, we waited outside. Shashi Kapoor is walking out, and Meena runs to Shashi Kapoor, and with starry eyes, she said, "You know, you are the most handsome man in the world." To which he says, "Ha ha ha," and tapped her like that. She says, "Quick, give me a pen." She made a circle. She said, "Shashi Kapoor touched me here." Go back to my story of Wahida Rehman. A few years ago, my book of collection of short stories was published. My dad, who is now 80 years old, but he's a writer himself, he was very proud, so he called me, congratulated me. I said, "Dad, all my dreams have come true. I could marry the woman I wanted to. I could buy the company that I worked for. My book is published." I said, "There's only one little thing left. If I can somehow meet Wahida Rehman." He laughed. 2 years ago, I was in Ahmedabad, India. Next morning, I had to meet an industrialist, Mr. Harlalka, in Bombay. In the afternoon, I was in travel agent's office. I said, "Get me to Bombay either tonight or tomorrow morning. I have a meeting." "No can do," she said. "All flights are booked for today and tomorrow." I said, "How about Bangalore? Anything going to Bangalore tonight?" So she says, "Do you want to go to Bombay or Bangalore?" I said, "Listen, my college buddy Naveen Shah lives in Bangalore. If you can fly me to Bangalore tonight and from Bangalore to Bombay tomorrow morning, then I get to meet my old friend, and then I can be in Bombay tomorrow morning." "That I can do," she said. My friend Naveen picked me up at the Bangalore airport at 8:30 at night. His boss, Mr. Amin, owns a few factories in Bangalore, so at 9:30 he says, "Let's go see Mr. Amin for a cup of tea." Sure, so we went to Mr. Amin's house for a cup of tea. His wife, Mr. Amin's wife, Anshu, said, "Rahul bhai, Naveen says you bought a very expensive car in the United States." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Listen, Anshu bhabi, all my dreams have come true. I could marry the person I wanted to. I could buy the car I wanted to, bought the company. My book is published. There's only one dream left." "What is it? What is it?" she asked. I said, "All my life, I was hoping that I can spend an evening with Wahida Rehman." Naveen and Mr. Amin were laughing hard. Anshu bhabi said, "You like her that much?" I said, "Bhabhi, you don't know, we are talking about Wahida Rehman. What an actress, what a woman. In Movie Guide, when she does that Naga Nrutya, what a lachak her body has." Anshu bhabi said, "Well, Wahida Rehman now lives in Bangalore. She and I go to the same club. I meet her every Wednesday." She said, "Why don't I call Wahida in the morning, tell her that an industrialist from the United States is here, he's your fan, and he would like to come and visit you." She said, "I'll take you to her bungalow tomorrow morning for a cup of tea." She said, "I'll get you up to a handshake." How far you can take it after that is up to you. Oh my God. There was a volcanic eruption in my mind. All my life I had joked and talked about an encounter with Wahida Rehman. I said, "Bhabhi, I have a meeting with Mr. Harlalka in Bombay tomorrow morning." She said, "Cancel it." Well, I was in a state of shock. I knew I could easily cancel that meeting and reschedule it 2 days later. Plus, meeting Mr. Harlalka, a 60-year-old businessman, was not all that important. Wahida Rehman, on the other hand, looked so beautiful in that Nagarutya. My mind was racing at 100 miles per hour. Oh my God, tomorrow morning, I could be sitting in front of Wahida Rehman sipping a cup of tea. But I then slowly turned my head. I looked at Anshu bhabi and said, "No, I cannot do it. I have to be in Bombay tomorrow morning." "Why not?" She says, "Why not? If this was your dream, why not?" Well, I did not tell her why not. but I knew quite well why not. If I went to see Wahida Rahman at her bungalow, I would tell her what a wonderful artist she is. We will sit down in her porch. She will offer me a cup of tea. Then we will get up. She will shake my hand and say goodbye. My dream will come to a permanent end. But if I do not see her, I can continue to think that the next time when I go to Bangalore, how I may spend an entire evening with Wahida Rahman. You see, my enjoyment came from the journey of getting to see her, and I did not want that journey to end. Next morning, sitting at his house on Juhu Beach, I told Mr. Harlalka how I gave up the opportunity to see my childhood idol, Wahida Rahman. He said, "You did the right thing." He then told me a story about young Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore, as a child, was always thinking about visiting Taj Mahal. He used to wonder how would it feel to stand in front of this marvelous monument of love. By the time he was 16, he was so obsessed to see Taj Mahal that he went to the Kolkata railway station, bought a ticket for Agra, got on the train, traveled for 20 hours and got down at Agra station. But as young Rabindranath Tagore was getting out of the train and he looked at the train that brought him from Kolkata to Agra, he was beginning to feel sadness in his heart. He said, "All my life I wanted to see Taj Mahal. I'm only 16. Once I see Taj Mahal, what would I crave for?" So he then quickly proceeded to the ticket window, bought a ticket back for Kolkata, got in the next train without seeing Taj Mahal, and went back to Kolkata. So Mr. Harlalka told me, he said, standing in front of Taj Mahal is probably not as much fun as it is about planning to be standing in front of Taj Mahal. Success is hope in your heart. Success is believing that tomorrow will be better than today. And what better way for me to end my speech today with this story of Wahida Rahman, where I indeed believed that success is a journey and not a destination.